Hi, guys. Welcome to the podcast. This is a little bit of a different podcast episode. It's not so strategic, it's not so tactical. It is more a little bit of a life catch up and to share my thoughts on a few different things that have been on my mind and that I think you might be interested in as well. Think about this episode as a little bit more of like a catch up with a friend than, your strategy lesson. But I think that there is a lot of gold in here. Haven't recorded it yet, but I can tell you that in advance. Now, if you're listening to this episode and you have noticed an improvement over the last couple of episodes with the sound quality, you would know if you are listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube that I now have a professional mic again. So I switched to a little bit of a less professional mic when I picked up my podcasting again. About a month or two ago, just because I wanted to get back into the cadence of doing it. But I actually listened back to an episode a couple of weeks ago and I just was not happy with the sound quality. And so I have picked up a USB mic, which I can take with me on the go, which I will need. I'll tell you a little bit more about why in a moment. But it has definitely improved the sound quality and I hope you can hear it as well. I think that whole situation is actually a really good example of something I really believe, which is like the power of just starting and then like iterating as you go. I feel like I needed to get into the flow of creating podcast episodes and then just knowing that it would improve over time, which it will continue to do. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, as this episode goes live, I will be one day away from jumping on a plane to kickstart a very exciting adventure. So I have decided to go over to, drumroll please, Greece for 3 months. Yes, Greece for 3 months. I think that anyone in the real world that I have told this to over the last little while just kind of blinks at me and says, what are you doing? I don't think they realize these, remote online jobs exist and we can literally work from anywhere in the world. And so I am taking that and I am realizing what a privilege and what an amazing adventure we get to have for ourselves, and I am taking it on the road. So I am heading over firstly to London for a few days, Singapore and then to London, and then over to Greece for 3 months where I will be with my kiddies and have enrolled them in an educational program over there at a school where 40 families all go over together. They speak English at the school. They have all of our housing set up for us. It's honestly the most incredible thing ever. The second I found out about it, a friend of mine did it, I was just like, oh my gosh, get me on board, get me on that plane. I am doing this. My soul speaks to this experience. And so that's what I'm doing over the next 3 months. It has been a whirlwind getting everything sorted and together from a life perspective, from a children perspective, getting permission from the school, getting everything packed up, getting everything organized. And I will share probably in a standalone podcast episode once I am in Greece a little bit more about that whole experience. But my gosh, am I excited. I am a travel girl to my soul. I spent so much time before I had kids traveling. I went all around Central America. I went around South America. I went all through Europe in a van with a friend of mine. I've traveled all through Europe since then on the smell of an oily rag, but I still made it work and I had the best time and the best adventures. And I guess always a piece of me was a little bit scared that once I had kids, there wouldn't be the ability to do that once they went to school, etc. And I have made it work and I am so excited, and I'm so excited to do this adventure with them as well and to show them a different part of the world and to experience it through their eyes. I am absolutely pumped for it. So that is me and a little bit of what is going on the personal front over the last little while, and I cannot wait to get on that plane tomorrow. So the podcast episodes in a few weeks' time will look a little bit different. There will be a backdrop that I'm sure, we're just going to work with what we have in terms of the podcast, but it will be quite the adventure. So that adventure really mirrors what my word of the year is this year, which is adventure. And I really wanted this year to feel different and to get out of my comfort zone. And I think that this trip is going to be an incredible opportunity for me to do that. But it also mirrors the perspective that I have that I wanted to share on the podcast today around a lot of different things at the moment. I am obviously a business owner. So I have been in business for 8-9 years. I don't know, it all starts to roll together at a certain point. I am a mother, so I have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old now. And I have always been a very ambitious person. I am an Enneagram 3. I am a 3-5 in human design. I am a generator, a 3-5, generator in human design. I'm an eldest daughter. Just like any of the achiever type personality test result type things, I am that. I have always been that. I have always been driven by this innate feeling inside of me to achieve. I don't know where it came from. I do feel like a lot of my childhood, I really felt like I had to prove something. I was never the coolest girl at school, but I always got good grades, and I held on to that as like a sense of worth. And one thing that I've been reflecting on lately is ambition and the way that my views around ambition and success have very fundamentally changed over, I would say, the last 2 to 3 years. I don't think it is something that happened the moment that I became a mother, but I do think that the process of becoming a mother was the biggest identity shift that I have ever been through. I think it just took me a while to kind of fully lean into it, if I'm completely honest. And my view of what success means to me, what ambition I'm willing to strive for these days, and what it now looks like for my life is actually very different. And so I want to talk about that a little bit on the podcast. I have a few people that I love following over on Substack, and one of those people is Laura Williams. She has an amazing Substack called How to Build a Life, and she had an Instagram post, I think it was yesterday, that I really resonated with, and I want to share the concept of what she was talking about. And I also want to share how my view is slightly different, but she is a single mum in the UK, an incredible writer. She's written quite a few books, and she put this Instagram post out yesterday. It was basically a post talking about how she is in midlife or entering midlife, and things are good in her life. So if she was objectively, to look at her life, she has a beautiful son, she has people who love her, she has, a career, and yet she is starting to have this realization that she's not going to have the really big life that maybe in her 20s she thought or assumed that she would eventually have, and how ultimately a lot of us end up in this position where we have this mediocrity, which maybe we're okay with, but if you're an ambitious person and you have been through your 20s and your 30s and you start to move into your 40s and it hasn't yet paid off, but you're still hustling and you're still striving, you kind of get to this point where you're kind of okay with it, or you start to look back and think, wow, is this it? It's not actually going to be the big life that I thought it was going to be. And so the comment section of this Instagram post were just so interesting to me because so many people were talking about, yes, I completely understand that feeling. I have that same feeling. It is like this, I guess it's kind of like the catalyst for a lot of people for that midlife crisis where they kind of go, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy a Ferrari or whatever it is, right? But, it can also be a lot quieter. It can just be this like quiet knowing and maybe realization that your life isn't going to be as big and as grand as potentially the ambition that you had and the hustling and the striving that you did would have led you to believe would ultimately have occurred. And I really sat and reflected on that because I was like, it's such an interesting take and an interesting perspective. But I don't actually share the same realization as Laura. I have definitely gone through a fundamental shift in the way that I view, like I said, ambition and success, but actually with a lens of what I'm not willing to sacrifice any longer in the pursuit of a traditional notion of what success might typically mean. And so what I mean by that is that my life at the moment is, it's not a big, grand life. I'm definitely fortunate and I feel like I have worked hard and I have achieved, things that I'm really proud of, to be completely honest. And also, at the moment, I have this like inner knowing that my version of success no longer is going to mirror or reflect maybe what other people are striving for. So I even look at other people in the industry around me at the moment and I'm cheering them on hard for the things that they are achieving with a deep inner sense and knowing that that is not for me. Now, I'm not saying that it's not for me ever. I'm not saying that it's not for me. Basically what I'm saying is like in this season of my life, I have like a deep peace around where I'm at and around what I've achieved and about not having this like inner burning ambition, especially if it comes at the sacrifice of the things that mean the most for me. And I think this comes down to shifting core values. I think for me specifically, before I had kids, my core values were very much around achievement and about pushing and that sort of thing. And after having children, a lot of it went out the window. Does it not mean that I want to do things for myself and I want to feel proud of the work that I do and there's things that I still want to achieve. Like I really want to write and have my book published, for example. Like that's a huge thing for me. But I also don't have like a rushed timeline for anything. And I'm not willing to do it at the sacrifice of anything that matters most to me, which, to be completely frank, is time with my children and time making sure that I live a balanced, healthy life where I am not highly stressed and I enjoy my days, like the little things in my days. There is a movie called About Time, which I am obsessed with. It has Rachel McAdams from The Notebook in it. And basically there's this like section inside of that movie where the dad, who I think is around about 50 years old, he has cancer and he basically talks to his son about how I may be getting like the details of this wrong, but the crux of it is that, I need to go back and watch it. He talks about how we rush through our days. And so like, they go through this scenario where this guy rushes through his days and he kind of like kisses his little kid and rushes out the door and like misses like the beauty of the little parts of their days which ultimately make up our lives. And then he kind of like goes back to the beginning of the day and he lives that day again and he savors and appreciates all of the beautiful tiny little things that he missed in the hustle and the bustle. And that, for me, like not missing those little moments, that for me is like my ultimate ambition. That for me is like the ultimate success right now. And I look around me and I think like, gosh, we have all just sped up so much. Like everything is rushing and everything is like in like fast forward mode and it's out of control. I even see it in my kids. So my kids are 6 and 4, and particularly with my little boy. So my little boy is in grade 1 and like there's just so much going on. Like we have to rush him out the door and then he goes to school and then like come home and then there's other things to do and extracurriculars and then it's dinner and then it's bed. And it's just everything is on this like rush mode. And I even see in him, and it's a big reason for doing this trip as well, which is probably a whole other podcast episode, my thoughts on traditional schooling and whether it serves children. But I see him and his spirit dim a little bit as, the term and the semester goes on and he gets tired and it's just expected and it's just normal. And I really question that. I really question the status quo around that. And I really question the worth in doing it. Now, on the flip side, I'm completely aware that even having the ability to talk about this and to slow down a little bit is a privilege. And it is a privilege that was afforded to me through 7, 8, 9 years of working very consistently towards my goals. And so I don't dismiss the fact that this isn't something that is like easy for everyone to say, oh yeah, okay, I'm going to slow down and I'm going to appreciate my days. I realize that there is so much nuance around doing that. And I don't profess to have all of the answers, but for me right now, I am willing to sacrifice a chunk of what my old version of myself would have absolutely given anything to achieve or to do or to have this season of life right now be more spacious and a little bit slower. So how long will this go on for me? Who knows? Like it might get like a year or 2 years down the track and I just have this like crazy drive again and I want to go hell for leather, and I will honor that period for me as well. But I don't suspect I will ever be willing to do that at the sacrifice of the things that matter most. Now, I think for me, I have a lot of perspective that I didn't have 5, 2, 3 years ago. And I think a lot of that does come from loss and through going through those dark nights of the soul and through losing things that really matter to you and realizing that time actually just marches by and that our lives are actually really damn short. And even if we get all of the time that we want, we're probably still going to wish that we had more time. And so I want to be really mindful of and enjoy the time that I have right now. I've talked about this in a previous podcast episode, but my mum passed away a couple of years ago from ovarian cancer, and I don't have any regrets about the time that I got to spend with her. I really got to spend some beautiful time with her, but I do have like the odd moment that sticks out in my mind that I'm just like, why did I do that? And why didn't I, be more cognizant of the limited time that we had together? And like, it's literally the most random and odd moments. There's one that I have spoken about on the podcast before where my mum came over and it was about 11 o'clock and I think I was working on some course curriculum or something along those lines. And she asked to just come in for a coffee. And I said, yeah, of course. And she sat at the kitchen bench, and far out what I would give to have that moment again with her. But I pulled my computer out and like while she was talking, I just started typing away. And eventually she was like, all right, Stevie, you're clearly busy. I'll, let you go. And I'm like, why did I do that? And I think like, moments like that are absolutely etched into my mind now. And I think like, I just have this like real laser focused sense of perspective around this magical period of my life right now when my children are small, where they want to spend time with me, where I am so healthy and I am, able to do everything that I want to do. And potentially that's not going to be the case however many years from now. I also lost my dad when he was 55, and that's not that far away really for me now. And I've got this weird thing in my mind where that's always like the cutoff line for me. I always think like far out, like I need to make sure that I enjoy my life because who knows how many years past that I'll get. And I mean, who knows how many years we'll have altogether regardless. But it really is this like kick up the butt for me to like not just maintain the status quo and not just to sleepwalk through life and to actually do things that are different and that require change and that may require me to slow down and to not ever take for granted the time that I have now. So I don't know, all of that is to say that I feel like this word of the year for me this year, which is adventure, I feel like my perspective around ambition and success, which I talk about a lot in my business, it really is the crux of Lifestyle Business School, because I feel like having a sense of spaciousness and perspective is the whole point. That is the success at the end of the day. It's really on my mind at the moment, and it is something that is intrinsically woven into all of the decisions that I have made over the last year, the last 2 years, the last 3 years. I've made some really big life-changing decisions, of which this, going to Greece trip is one of them. And it's something I wanted to share. And maybe it's just a little reminder or an invitation to you to think about, where am I maintaining this status quo? Where am I potentially not appreciating this beautiful life that we have now? Where am I able to, within the constraints that we all have, able to, slow down a little bit and notice the beautiful moments in our days and be cognizant that, in fact, they are actually our lives, and really clarify what that definition of success is for you. I know it's been all over social media for years, but there's the 5 regrets of the dying that a palliative care nurse basically shared, what the top 5 regrets are for, people that are at the end of their lives and what they most regretted. And one of those things was the things that they didn't do. And I think that that is just so true for me. I will never regret having tried something or having done something different or having, had these experiences that require you to get a little bit uncomfortable and to do some extra work and, to really strive to make happen. But I really would regret having never done those things. And so my life, I want to look back on, whether it's a year, 10 years or 50 years from now, at the end of it, hopefully it's 50 to, however long science will let us live these days. But I'm also really mindful of the fact that it might not be. And I want to make sure that work is a beautiful complement to my life, and also that it doesn't completely eat every other part of my life that is important to me, and that I really sit down and intentionally map out what it is that I want to achieve, what adventures do I want to have, how can I slow down and enjoy those little moments in every day that ultimately make up the beautiful fabric of our lives. So there you have it. This is a little bit of a different podcast episode. It is definitely inspired by this plane that I am getting on tomorrow. Definitely come and follow me over on Instagram. I'll share a lot more about my experience over there. I'll also dedicate a full podcast episode once I'm in and I am settled to what it is that I'm doing and how it's going, and a little bit more of that experience. But I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did enjoy it, come and send me a message on Instagram, or if you're on YouTube, please comment and let me know your thoughts on anything that I've shared inside of today's episode. And until next time, I'll see you then.